You're listening to the Journey Podcast. Often we know that something is misaligned and we are not centered, but the road to discovering our authentic self can be difficult and energy work can help. Stay tuned for today's episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. Today is part of International Stress Awareness Week. And for this special bonus episode, I connected with mentor and energy practitioner Kate Ikert to discuss the impact of energy work. Often, we know that something is misaligned and we're not centered, but the road to discovering our authentic self and beginning our healing journey can be very difficult, especially if we're battling unexplained physical or mental symptoms and we just know that something is off. In this episode, mentor and energy practitioner Kate Ikert talks about the experience with energy work and how it helped her align and heal. Combining mentoring with energy work, she offers a unique perspective on holistic healing. Whether the healing is needed in your personal life or in your professional career or business, energy work can transform many aspects you may be struggling with. Kate is a former registered nurse, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and energy practitioner. As a mom of 3, former registered nurse and energy practitioner, Kate noticed a huge gap in the health and wellness industry. She noticed that more often than not, most things are a band-aid approach to a deeper issue. As a mentor and shaman in training, she believes that each physical ailment is a manifestation of deeper healing required. Her passion is to empower women to feel their very best with a holistic approach to their health. Let's meet Kate Ikert. Hi, Kate. It's wonderful to have you on the podcast today. I am so curious to find out more about what an energy practitioner does and how it works. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
Yes, let's get right into it. Can you share a little bit about your personal story struggling with feelings of anxiety?
Yes. Okay. Well, buckle in.
Yes.
It's a journey, right? So my name is Kate Ikert. I'm an energy practitioner. I'm a registered nurse by trade, mom of 3. We also farm. There's a lot going on. I have multiple businesses. So yeah, I like to kind of dabble in quite a few things. So my journey with anxiety, I never really identified as somebody that was anxious. I had very high functioning anxiety. As a nurse, especially when I would deal with patients that had anxiety, they really couldn't get a lot done. They got overwhelmed easily, and I just never identified as that. I was very productive. But what I didn't recognize until about 2018, when I heard somebody else talk about their experience with anxiety and how they were in this chronic fight or flight, and they were just go, do, and essentially like the overachiever. And I was like, oh, that's me. That's me. I definitely identified as that. Like, I didn't recognize that was anxiety. I just always felt like I was kind of vibrating from the inside out. I just thought I had to go. I didn't really know myself. I didn't really identify as self-aware, like any of that. So it kind of hit me like a brick wall when I'd heard of somebody having this kind of anxiety, or specifically this is what it looked like. And then having like physical symptoms that arose because of their anxiety. So I had health issues since about 2010. When I start to look back on it now, I recognize that there was some things. When I was a kid, I would have these chest pains, and they always were like, oh, it's anxiety or heartburn. I was like, no, it's not. Like, that's not what it is. Like, I never, ever felt like that was the truth. Like, all through nursing school and moving out to Saskatchewan, moving far away to where I am right now from my family, this chest pain kept happening. It was getting worse and worse and worse. They had me on multiple medications. They would always do a cardiac checkup. They would do all these things, and it would all just come down to heartburn. And I knew that it wasn't heartburn. Fast forward, it became this crippling thing for me. I had my daughter and I couldn't cope. I wouldn't be able to work my full-time job full-time. I took max sick days. Like they would stretch out my esophagus, they'd inject Botox into the bottom of it, all be done under anesthetic, like these risky things. It was really, really terrible. I was on multiple medications, high dose narcotics, and I was about to go down to the Mayo Clinic to get dealt with down there. And my mom, who's a nurse back home, she had somebody that she had referred me to be able to check things out for me. And after this being like a 6-year journey of me being on medications and back and forth and not having any answers and just not coping, he looked at me very kindly and said, "I'm really sorry to tell you there's nothing physically wrong with you. Is there anything else that might be going on?" And I just remember feeling this flood of emotion and this flood of awareness. And this just like he saw me for the first time that nobody else had ever seen me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It all came like rushing in that I was like my body's trying to tell me something. And I, as a nurse, especially now retired, like I just find so often that I believe, and as an energy practitioner as well, this is a very common belief, is that you'll get physical manifestations of a deeper issue. And so my body was trying to tell me something. And I've spent the last 5 years now learning more about my body and what it's trying to tell me. What was going on was unresolved trauma. What was going on was that I wasn't speaking my truth. What was going on is that I wasn't living in alignment for what I needed. What was going on is that I wasn't taking care of myself physically.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to anxiety, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm a registered nurse by trade, energy practitioner. I very much teach the lens of like, I believe that what I've gone through is going to help somebody else. And that's why I'm really, really glad that you invited me onto this podcast, because this is a really important message that I want to share with people. I want you to start to ask more questions, and I want you to start to redefine things on your own terms. And if something doesn't feel right, I want you to look closer. I want you to get curious. I want you to have discernment. I saw a quote, I think it's Jim Carrey, and he said, "Before you diagnose yourself or get diagnosed with depression or anxiety, I want you to start to look at 5 things." Maybe it's 4, either way. Are you drinking enough water? Are you moving your body? Are you getting out in nature? Okay, and it doesn't have to be this like intense workout or whatever, but are you getting in nature? Are you grounding yourself? Are you around really toxic, crappy people, right? Who you surround yourself really, really matters. And are you doing anything that lights you up? And when I started to look at all those things, I was like, I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't eat great. I didn't drink very much water. Basic things, right? You don't know what you don't know. I wasn't nourishing my body nutritiously. I wasn't doing things that I enjoyed. I was just stuck in this of who I thought I had to be for others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit of my journey, very Cole's Notes condensed version. I just feel like there's such a bigger conversation at play. And I think that a lot of the time with Western medicine, it's very much a Band-Aid solution for anxiety and depression. I still struggle with anxiety, but I use it more of like a check engine light, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I can only begin to imagine what you went through and how that would have felt to just keep looking and knowing something wasn't right, but just not being able to find an answer to it. So frustrating, and also a real validation of what you were feeling after you spoke to that last practitioner, because you finally knew I wasn't wrong this whole time. I really knew there was something going on. I just didn't know exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You moved then from finding out what was going on into becoming an energy practitioner yourself. And how did you get into that?
Okay, so that's kind of the next piece of my story. I guess the biggest thing is that I knew that I was in control, which was someone who struggles with anxiety. That was actually really freeing. I was like, this is something that I can do. This is something that I can help improve my circumstances, right? And I know that's not everybody's story. I want to remind you that you do get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
You do have a choice, okay? So I started going down my wellness journey, and I started paying attention to what I was eating, really focusing on nourishing my body, using alternative medicines like acupuncture and all of these things. And it led me down this road. Like I was also working with a naturopath and really just started to pay attention to my cycle and like really tap into my feminine energy and like all these things that we are taught to just really ignore and just like, oh, that's no big deal. Like there's deeper things, like your body is a cycle. Everything's a cycle, like just tapping into that energy more. And then I went down the deep dark hole of human design. Have you ever heard of human design?
Yes, actually, I can finally say that I've looked it up and I've taken the test and figured out my number. So
I love it. So for those of you that are listening that are like, what is human design? Google it. It's a deep dark hole. If you find me on social media, I do have some things I talk about it. And then I also have lots of really great resources. So I'll give you like Human Design 101 for those of you that are listening. There's some really great podcasts about it too. So feel free to go down the rabbit hole. I think it's just so enlightening. It was really enlightening for me either way. It's an energy system. And so it's like your blueprint, like your guide. So there's 5 energy types. Most of the world is made up of manifesting generators and generators, the go, 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 do, do, doers of the world. And then we have our non-energy types, which is reflectors, manifestors, and projectors. And I am a non-energy type. I'm a projector. So what does it mean to be a projector? It means that I'm here to guide. More often than not, I give unsolicited advice. So that's part of my learning process, is just asking and waiting for someone to be like, do you have any guidance here? And not just like telling everybody how to be. I'm learning. But the biggest thing about it is that I don't work in the same way that most people do, like manifesting generators, in that I am not meant to work a 9 to 5. I have an intense aura and I can get a lot done in like 2 to 3 hours. And then I can spend the rest of my time having fun or resting, like restorative rest, doing the things that light me up, things like that. So that was a really, really key piece in helping me to transition out of the job that I was working. Most projectors burn out actually at a very, very early age. And I had hit projector burnout as a registered nurse working 12-hour shifts. I had 3 kids. We have multiple businesses. I hit a brick wall. And when I was pregnant with baby number 3, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't go back to this job. Like, I just knew, like, I was not tapped into my intuition like I am now. And I just knew that I had to do something different. So I partnered with a network marketing company. I saw really great success with that. Again, it just kind of all fell into place. I started receiving body talk sessions, and I intuitively knew that I was also an intuitive and a medium. And then I ended up working with a mentor who was a shaman, and I just felt really at home and kind of started remembering that I have all these abilities too. So I ended up taking my level 1 and 2 Reiki practitioner, and then I'm also now in shaman school. So I will be a Peruvian shaman by summer of 2023. I am also taking classes in Nora shamanism. So working in the energetic, it's really, really fascinating work. The more I learn, the more I'm like, I don't know anything.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I've never heard of shaman school before, so that is definitely something new for the podcast.
Yeah.
I love that. And you work with someone from or in Peru for that?
She was trained in Peruvian shamanism. Her mentor actually goes to the Peruvian Andes to receive teachings from there. It is kind of
Oh.
like associated that way.
Yeah,
So
that sounds fascinating. So I can't wait to hear more about that when the time comes and you've graduated there, you're working with that. That'll be exciting.
very much so.
Yeah. So you used the energy work to help with your anxiety and then also with your overall health and well-being. Are there any other things that you can use the energy work for to not just improve anxiety, but other things as well?
You can use energy work for everything. As I said before, I'm a multi-passion entrepreneur. So I kind of have 2 avenues of my business as an energy practitioner. So if those of you that find me online, you'll find 2 accounts. So I have one that is specifically working with female entrepreneurs to help improve their money stories. More often than when we're looking for reaching for that next level of success, there sometimes tends to be that underlying money story. Like, who am I if I'm successful? Cycle breaker in my family, who's the first one who's had starting this trend of generational wealth. There can be a lot of stuff there. I can help to create this container to transform your money story. You can do healing on like generational trauma. I can help you transform your relationship with anxiety, your relationship with yourself. So many things. It's really unlimited what energy work can do.
Wow, I love that. And what kind of client do you usually work with? Like, what are some of their challenges or anything outside of money that they might be working on?
I like to use money as the thing that people come to, right? They're like, I'm not making the money that I want.
Mhm.
But there's deeper stuff that's going on. More often than not, they're not feeling fulfilled. They're not asking for what they need. They don't think that they can. So more often than not, I'm working with moms who feel like they have to do it all, right? They don't have an identity maybe outside of being a mom and an entrepreneur. There's lots of self-worth things like, who am I if I want this or want that, or I shouldn't? And a lot of what they struggle with is, to be completely honest, is this black or white thinking. Like, if I'm this, then I can't be that. And what I really like to do through my coaching, which I do with my energy work, just depending on, the kind of support that you're looking for, is
Mhm.
really helping women to step into the and really step into the world of polarity and the world of duality, which is interesting because it's not something that we really talk about in society, right? Not in Western society anyways. So I have lots of moms that are like, okay, well, I really want to be this successful entrepreneur, or I really want to, whatever they're reaching for in their goal, but then they think they have to sacrifice something in order to have that.
Mhm.
And so like, I want to be a good mom and a successful entrepreneur. I'm like, okay, well, you need to redefine what good means. What does being a good mom look like? if you can redefine that, then there's not this black or white or putting things in boxes. So really, really helping to shift all of that. And when it comes to energy work, you can feed these thought forms that are like, I can't have this, I can't have that, and these unsupportive narratives, if you will. And so what I can do with energy work is really disentangle your energy from that thought form and really pull back your energy from that identity, because it all comes down to identity, right? Who am I if, right? Do I identify as somebody that doesn't have anxiety? Do I identify as somebody that can be well? There's so many like nuances around that when it comes to identity. But when it comes to energy work, it comes back to being in your own energy and feeling empowered and knowing that there are nuances and there is the and there is duality. And when you focus on one thing, it's not like you're taking away from something else. So really helping you to be in more of that abundant thinking versus that scarcity mentality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I do notice that a lot in women that I speak to, and it seems to happen more to women than to men for some reason, is that we always think we have to give something up if we're asking for something else in return. And I totally agree with you that we should be asking more ands and not buts or onlys, because those tend to limit us very much so in life.
Yes.
I love that you work with people on that as well. And can you explain a little bit what it is that you offer now? You mentioned your coaching, you mentioned the energy work, and what could listeners expect if they were to contact you to work with you? What kind of things can you offer them? Are they programs? Are they one-on-one coaching sessions? What is it that you offer?
So I'm going to kind of talk about the different offers that I have on both sides of my business, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So for the female entrepreneur, we can do intensives that start to break down your money stories. I do have a group coaching offer that's going to be coming in the fall, so stay tuned. It's going to be really, really awesome. And then I do offer a higher level one-on-one, which is a bigger investment, but you get to go through things faster, essentially, is what it means. You can go 4 times the speed. So that's what that looks like. If you're looking for just like an energy session, that is something that I can do. I do local sessions to where I am, but I can do those over Zoom too. If you have physical things like anxiety, depression, or feelings of anxiety and depression, fatigue, or you just want to feel your best, an energy session can be really, really helpful for you. I recommend, if you don't get consistent energy work done, to do a session about every month or so. I kind of like to use the analogy of like, if you haven't cleaned your oven out in a long time, that it's going to be a big job kind of to start with. And then, if you do it again and again, it's just like a quick, easy clean, right? It's not this big thing, but years of things built up, if you will, you need to kind of clear those out. But that's what I recommend. I started doing energy work 2 years ago, and I just felt like I could use it, every 3 weeks. And I was constantly doing all these things. Well, now I do my own daily intentions and my little energy work, and it's enough. I don't have to do these big, huge, big, huge sessions anymore. So, which is great. So there's multiple ways to work with me. And if anybody's interested in any of that, you can check out more on my Instagrams.
Wow, that sounds great. And we will be linking to all of Kate's offerings in the show notes as well. So you can take a look there and see how you get in touch with her if you would like to work with her. And we have the 2 sides. So one is for the woman entrepreneur and the other side is for the energy work. Although I'm sure that the 2 of them combine very nicely. If you are a female entrepreneur, then you can obviously do the energy work with Kate as well. Is there any last little nuggets of wisdom or anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with before we close off the episode?
So as an intuitive, I was getting a couple downloads just before I was getting ready. I was laughing before the show that I got all dressed up, not knowing that this was an audio recording. So as I was getting ready, for this, something that I really just want to leave listeners with is touched on this already, is the idea of identity. So one of my favorite books that I read when I started my personal development journey was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about your identity. Beginning of the new year, everybody sets New Year's resolutions, all these things, right? And more often than not, you're 2 weeks in and either you've set all the resolutions and nothing's happened, or you've fallen off the wagon already, right? The biggest thing that needs to shift when you want to make a change in your life is your identity. And this is something I work with my clients on. This is something that I'm always doing on myself too, is say that you want to stop smoking, for instance, okay? And you can apply this to whatever area in your life that you want to make a change or see a change in. If you identify as someone that used to smoke and you want to stop smoking. So you go to a party, someone offers you a cigarette, and this is from this book. Someone offers you a cigarette and you say, no, thanks, I don't smoke anymore. So you're still identifying as someone who smokes, right? Whereas if you can shift your identity, so if someone offers you a cigarette, you can be like, no, thanks, I don't smoke.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much power in that. At the root of it, it is identity. So often for myself, when I was struggling with anxiety, My anxiety gets to be a lot when I don't get to do the work that I love, when I've been with my kids, and here's the permission slip for any moms listening, to do what lights you up because you're a better mom because of it. When I've been at home with my kids for 5 days and I don't get to do any of the things that I need, and as a projector, I'm not getting the rest that I need, and I don't have the support that I need, I feel more anxious because I'm misaligned with my identity.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really, really big piece is I was like, I'm anxious because there's a misalignment happening. Yes, I know that there's so many other factors when it comes to anxiety, depression. I hold space for all of that. I really struggle with postpartum anxiety. I definitely struggle with seasonal affective disorder. There's so many factors, but I really want people to start to identify as like, well, what if I'm someone that is in control of my anxiety? It doesn't control me. What if I'm someone that is in control of my depression? It doesn't control me. What if there's things like even lowering the standards or what I can accomplish in a day, or calling in support, asking for the support you need, knowing you're worthy of that support, identifying as somebody who's worthy of asking for support. That's just a little nugget that I wanted to leave for any listeners because I know that it was something that really helped me.
That's very powerful. Thank you so much for that. I definitely also believe that, as you said, identity can be such a powerful motivator or something that discourages you depending on what identity you're feeding. And so shifting that identity, shifting your perspective can make a huge difference in whatever healing journey you're on, whether that be some physical journey or that is more a mental, emotional journey. Definitely working with your identity, as Kate said, I think that's a huge, huge point and can make a big difference in what you're doing.
Absolutely. And yeah, it can do the other, right? It can hold you back. Like there's lots of times as I go to do things like who are like as a mom, like moms don't do that. So I'm like, I have to redefine what it is to be a mom. Like I need to redefine if it's not serving you, permission to just redefine it again and again and again.
Exactly. And it happens a lot. It happens to women who say, oh, women don't do this or can't do this. You know, we make our identity constructs all the time, and sometimes those can be very limiting. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. That was really great advice. And I found this to be an incredible episode. And I really hope our listeners have enjoyed this journey into energy healing and also your coaching as much as I have. It has been fantastic chatting with you on the podcast, Kate. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Petra.
Thanks. Take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please subscribe, share on social media, and leave us a review. And be sure to get your copy of our brand new ebook called Break Free. Sending you love and courage, and see you next week. Until then, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and the Journey blog.